Good morning, Janice.
Good morning, Anthony.
Today we're going to talk about how to avoid family drama when someone dies. All right, so I think everyone knows that death plus family plus money is pretty much a recipe for drama.
Yeah, disaster, right.
Yeah. Nobody wants this to happen. Everyone would prefer to get along and to have family harmony. But it just happens. So we're going to do our best to share some insights from years of executor-ing, if that's a word, for hundreds of families. And we're going to point out the areas you should watch out for to help just kind of keep the family together as best you can.
So today we're going to talk about some of the most explosive issues, personal belongings, selling the family home, money, control and communication, and then being equal.
And then lastly, at the end, I will point out how getting a non-family member involved can really help keep the family happy and intact. So make sure you stick around to the end for that.
Very important. And don't forget, anthonyspark.com/join to get on our newsletter, hear about new books.
Very good. Let's get started. All right. The first area that is often a cause of family drama is personal belongings. So go into this understanding that every human being, every person sees the world differently and has different value systems and places different values on the same, can place completely different values on the same thing, right? You can look at for example, Janice, you can look at a picture that your child has painted and think that this is like a Van Gogh or whatever.
Yes.
And no offense, but I think it's,
maybe not. What, you don't think that amazing? I don't understand. Yeah.
So with that in mind, you just need to understand that different parts of the family are, some family members are going to see that table as a treasure and you see it as junk or bric-a-brac, right? So just understanding this difference in worldviews can help you prevent many problems. As long as you're respectful that other people have different points of view and you make sure everyone has an opportunity, then, there's not going to be fights over grandpa's war medals or mom's old Beatles poster or the family china that has no, eBay or a collectible value, but may have tremendous value to your cousin who, had tea parties with grandma when they were growing up with that. So just be respectful of those different values and you'll avoid a ton of problems. Yeah.
That's sentiment value. You can't really put a number on, but it's there. Sure. So the second thing that usually causes a lot of explosive issues would be selling the family home. You grew up there, right? Or maybe it was the grandparents' home and you spent every Saturday morning there. There's ties to that brick and mortar, just like what you were saying with the personal belongings. So you may run into where if, let's say you have 3-4 siblings, you have one that just says, I want it, no matter how unrealistic it may be for his finances or it's not going to happen, but they just want it. You're dealing with emotion right now and you're dealing with that, like, I can't let go because that's, I grew up there. So maybe be patient with that person. Give them a little bit of time. You don't have to sell the house the very next day. Mm-hmm. If they're, kind of steadfast and they want to do it, maybe let them look at it for a few minutes, realize they can't get the financing. It's not going to work. Instead of saying like, too bad, we're going to sell it. Just pack a little patience, right? Is that maybe a good way to deal with that?
And it's not just about sentiment. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Right. No, I was going to say in the end, it'll probably be sold, but it's how you kind of act in that middle to that person that really wants it. That's really at the end going to make it better on the family.
And it's not just about, those are all great points. It's not just about sentiment. It is a lot of the time, but it's also a lot of people watch too much HGTV or House Flippers. Yeah. And they're like, or they think, I can't read people's minds, but it seems like the thought process is, grandma's house is dilapidated and I have a hammer, so I'm going to turn it into, I'm going to renovate.
I'm going to knock out that wall and that wall and that wall, and then we're going to sell it for 4 times as much, right?
Right. And so that's why I need to inherit the house dude, it doesn't happen unless you are a contractor, right? And unless you are a contractor with experience flipping fast, because time does matter. Please just stop watching that TV show or whatever led you to believe that you could do this.
Stop watching, but I know it's not real.
Yeah.
right?
But yeah, so it's sentiment is a part of it, but there's also a lot of sort of, I guess, unrealistic thoughts about being the next real estate mogul or whatever, right? Okay, cool. So next, something that we hear a lot, like way more than I care to hear, is the phrase, but it's not about the money. Huh. And I've basically learned that it is about the money.
I mean,
pretty much every time.
Especially if you have to say, like, it's not about the money. Well, why are you saying it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that people are greedy. I'm not judging on that level at all, but it is about the money. And it's because in the end, the money is a numeric, calculable representation of value, right? And so, for example, if mom passed away, but she was sick in her final years, for her final 2 or 3 years, and eldest daughter is the one who took time off work or even quit her job to come home and see mom's, take care of mom in her final years, there's numeric value to that. I mean, daughter quit her job, right? So, there are ways to calculate this, or at least think of it in terms of dollars and cents terms. It's not that you're trying to put a value on, well, I'm owed this because I'm the one who took care of mom, but you did actually lose money.
Quit your job, right? It's like, that's, financially.
So with that in mind, when numbers feel uneven to, let's say, siblings or nieces and nephews, there's going to be disputes, and it is about the money, right? But when their words are, it's not about the money, it's about the fact that I took care of mom. Well, it kind of, when you boil it all down, it is about the money. But so maybe that's a little bit of semantics, but just be aware that, it can be fixed with some money, usually. Yeah.
Right.
At least partially.
Money talks, I think, in everything, right? Is that kind of what it boils down to? But, but the next part is control and communication. So we've seen this, where one of the heirs is the executor, right? There's always that feeling of that person knows more and has more control than everyone else. Whether that's true or not, it's just how it feels. If you've got child number one who is in the mix of everything, with attorneys and probates, and they got everyone else kind of waiting to hear, that brings up a lot of emotion. You get frustrated. So maybe you could overly share information or keep them in the loop, just a little more than you probably normally would, just to help them feel better. Like, it's okay, here's everything that's going on. Because really no one likes to feel out of the loop. They're still, let's say, your parents, right? Or your parent, and you just kind of want to overshare maybe and really make them feel like they're part of it. But I know there's a lot of balancing act there, but.
So the irony is that, So the issue here is that the executor, it feels like the executor has more information and more power than the heirs, so the heirs start getting a little resentful towards the executor, saying, why do you have all the control? Why do you have all the information? And the irony is that the executor probably doesn't have that much more information and is just as frustrated with you. And I'll give an example. So we have a case where our client is waiting for tax clearance on funds that have come that came through. And we've been waiting a long time. And it's not her fault. It's not anybody. It's the IRS, basically. The IRS is just brutally slow giving us our tax clearance.
They're way behind, yes.
So our client is probably getting, little snarky emails and texts from her cousins saying, where's the money? Why aren't you sharing information? And they might be feeling like, why is this drag? I mean, legitimately, they have every right to be upset that it's dragging out so long. But the only answer there is that the IRS is just literally, we're just waiting for them. And they send us these form letters that say, we're reviewing 60 more days. We're reviewing 60 more days. So the irony is that the cousins are mad at her for not sharing information, but she doesn't have any more information to share. So it's got to be super frustrating for her. And also, that's kind of a reason why it sucks being an executor, and you might want to consider not doing it. But anyway, that's another story.
That's a whole other podcast, actually. I know for certain.
So back to me, right? So one of the points I think you need to go into when you're entering a family estate situation, if you enter with the mindset that it will never, I hope I didn't pop my mic there, it will never be equal. If you understand that it will never be perfectly equal, this is not a playground. You're not a kid. It's never going to be fair, right? As long as you understand that, and you try to get it as fair as possible, then you're better off than if you have this notion of what is fair, and if you don't get that, you're going to feel the injustice and make everyone feel your wrath. That's not how it works. Just generally, life is unfair. I think we can kind of agree to that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. No matter what, things will never be exactly 50-50 or exactly 40-60 or whatever it's supposed to be. So just kind of get over it.
Right. It is hard to say, but I get it. Yeah. It's if you go in with the mindset that I'm going to get exactly half to the penny and everything's going to be completely, you're going to be disappointed, right?
And another thing is you're probably going to end up worse off, because if you're that angry or that outraged and you hire your own attorney to fight that battle, you're probably not going to get anything more, and you'll have spent money, or I would say wasted money, on an attorney to write a few letters and make a few angry phone calls that stresses everyone out, but that doesn't change the result. So that was kind of pointless.
Absolutely. So in all of this, there is family fighting. It is what it is. So what can we do? Can you talk about non-family members stepping in? What can we do to just eliminate most of this?
Sure. So this is a little bit of a self-interested plug. So that's my total disclosure. This is what I do. I am a professional executor. And what that means is I'm not a family member. I'm not one of the cousins. I'm not one of the siblings. I'm not one of the uncles. I'm just the attorney and the guy in New York who runs the estate. And the reason that's useful, aside from the fact that we have teams built out to deal with banks and courts, and we kind of know what we're doing, right? That's the sort of technical side why it's useful to work with us. But the emotional or psychological reason why it's useful to work with someone like us is because we're disinterested. We don't have any baggage. We don't know that. I'm trying to come up with a funny example, but we don't take sides with this brother because this sister didn't invite us to her wedding. We're not involved in any of that, and there's no risk. Nobody perceives that because nobody knows us, or at least not in that way.
So you weren't invited to Thanksgiving dinner, so now you're mad at number one and number two, but not number three.
I was seated with the vendors at the wedding.
Right. We were in the wrong. But you're right. We have nothing to do with any of that.
There's no baggage with us.
Nothing.
Anything that's any decision we make is, at least on its surface, people will understand that it's an objective decision. There's no suspicion that we have little scores that we're settling within the family.
Right. Most of the time, we don't even know who's who. You just know that the name, which in the first name, and you're making decisions that are fair to the estate and rarely trying to be equal, because there is no bias there.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Another, and this is not great for us, but another reason why it's useful is because we are a common enemy. Nothing unites a country divided like a common enemy. That's why wars generally bring out a lot more patriotism and whatnot, right? Nothing unites a family that's on the verge of fracture like everyone hating the lawyer.
We are good at that.
Yeah, you know what? I can take the heat. If that is what it takes to heal your family, cool.
Fine. If that eliminates all of the other stuff we've talked about today and the chatting and the fighting, fine, whatever.
You guys can buy a book of lawyer jokes and share it around the Thanksgiving table and talk about why is this taking so long, that lawyer in New York, that's fine. As long as, it's limited to that and whatnot. And as long as you're not fighting each other. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
just one last point. It doesn't have to be a professional executor. You can get somebody else, like a family friend or somebody who's sort of not in the situation. Like, let's say the estate is mom survived by 4 kids, then you get an aunt or an uncle or somebody who's kind of a little removed to be the executor. But that still has the risk of relationships and biases or perceived biases. So for those reasons, I do generally recommend a professional executor.
So completely unbiased.
Don't
not
know anyone.
In the family,
I was not seated poorly at the wedding.
Dinner. That right there is a pretty big deal. So,
yeah, right.
But I think that's it. And anthonyaspark.com/join to get on the mailing list, because you talk about these topics and you have books coming out all the time. And there are podcasts more about this. Maybe you can put them in the link and we talk about it. The professional, exactly like what a professional executor is. Some people still might not understand. So we can link and talk about that.
Very good. Thank you, Janice. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I hope this was helpful. I know we've been doing a lot of death topics, but that is what we do. So,
right.
yeah. So anyway, we'll talk next time. Take care, everyone.
Talk soon.